Welcome back to Canon Chaos, the only show where parliamentary procedure meets Final Destination. Today's a disaster piece. What if Mon Mothma's hoverpod malfunctioned mid-speech and turned the Galactic Senate into a flaming carousel of failure? Mon Mothma, proud daughter of Chandrila, the Senate's last moral compass. She rises from her hoverpod with quiet determination, ready to deliver the speech the galaxy has been waiting to hear. Everyone's watching. Billions tuned in across the galaxy. Citizens on Coruscant, smugglers in cantinas, a Jawa somewhere shouting, "Volume up," at a dusty holo projector. She adjusts her robes, takes a breath, and begins her speech. Calm, noble, ready to inspire. The kind of speech that gets quoted on monuments and misquoted in textbooks. We must resist fear. We must name the Empire for what it is, and if we do not speak out against tyranny, that's when it happens. A low hum, a mechanical cough, a sound that says, "I regret to inform you, the floor is now your problem." The hoverpod emits one final, confused whir click, like it's questioning its life choices, then drops. Not in a heroic plunge, not in a graceful glide, it just gives up. The entire chamber watches in stunned silence as Mon Mothma, a woman held up by ideals, conviction, and 17-year-old repulsor lift tech, plummets with the elegance of a fruit basket tossed out a speeder window. There's a sickening metal thunk as the pod slams into the Durasteel floor. A second later, it ricochets into a structural column, which now lists slightly to the left and is considering early retirement. Sparks shoot in every direction. A technician screams. 2 senators duck, and 1 intern starts crying because this wasn't covered in orientation. She hits hard. So hard, the Senate's closed captioning system glitches and simply displays unspeakable impact. Somewhere, an aide vomits from the second-hand embarrassment. Somewhere else, a droid replays the footage on loop and whispers, "Wow." Mon Mothma lies there in the crumpled remains of her authority. Dignified, ash-covered, hair flawless, kneecap possibly sideways. The pod sputters one last time and audibly powers down with a defiant bloop, the intergalactic equivalent of, "I'm out, good luck." No one moves. No one speaks. And above it all, the Imperial delegation watches in silence, with Emperor Palpatine leaning back ever so slightly in his seat, steepling his fingers like he didn't just feel a cosmic surge of pure narrative irony. Mon Mothma groans, but the Senate, it's already unraveling. And gravity? Gravity has picked a side. The moment her hoverpod hits the floor, the Senate doesn't just react, it detonates. Not with fire, but with panic, confusion, and the unmistakable sound of bureaucrats realizing that they might be next. A nearby pod shudders violently, spins twice, and then bursts into flame without any clear reason. Another shoots skyward at full speed, smashes into the ceiling, and embeds itself like a political dart, its occupant dangling from the remains, still shouting about trade regulations. Emergency systems do not engage, because those were decommissioned last fiscal year in favor of ornamental lighting. Instead, half the lights flicker off, the chamber dims to an ominous orange, and a siren from the Clone Wars era activates, blaring "Code Red, Legislative Instability," in 3 conflicting languages. Then it dies mid-sentence with a pathetic bloop and the smell of melted copper. Jar Jar Binks, seated 2 pods away, is immediately engulfed in flame. No explosion, no warning, just a pillar of fire erupting around him like a divine punishment for his entire career. Misa not okay. Misa very not okay. He spins in place, flailing and screaming, ears on fire, robes ablaze, leaving a slow spiral trail of smoke like a Gungan incense stick of despair. A Core World senator tries to leap to safety, immediately slips, and knocks himself out on a beam labeled for decorative use only. Another screams, "The floor is treason!" before leaping dramatically into the arms of a horrified aide who immediately drops him. Several senators begin crawling along the side rails, one hand gripping the banisters, the other clutching pearls, data pads, or a flask, depending on exactly how long they've been in office. A pod marked Committee on Pod Safety Standards explodes. And in the center of this unraveling republic, Mon Mothma, bloodied, suit-covered, but still alive, pushes herself to her feet. She looks around. She sees fire. She sees Jar Jar stop, drop, and roll directly into a pile of flammable robes. She sees democracy collapsing in real time. And she does what only Mon Mothma would do. She clears her throat, stands tall, and begins to speak. But Mon Mothma raises her voice, because that's what she does. We cannot let fear. A pod crashes behind her. Silence our principles. Sparks rain from above. The people deserve to be heard. The sprinklers activate. But only in the Senate lobby. Water pours onto empty marble floors while the chamber continues to smolder like an ashtray full of political ambitions. She tries again. Our duty. A senator runs past screaming something about ancient Sith curses. Is to protect the Republic. Another senator launches a grappling hook. He hits a chandelier and swings directly into an intern. Mon Mothma does not flinch, but the audience, they can't hear her. The feedback from damaged speakers sounds like a Rancor gargling soup. The emergency lighting casts her in deep shadows, making her look less like a beacon of democracy and more like a haunted librarian trapped in a fire drill. She gestures wide, trying to rally the chamber. But even the loyalists are gone, either fleeing, unconscious, or filming the entire debacle for their anonymous Holonet meme accounts. In the upper gallery, a bored teenager has already begun editing her fall to music. The first version loops the pod drop with a triple-layered Wilhelm scream and a freeze-frame caption, Gravity 1, Republic 0. Meanwhile, Jar Jar finally stops, drops, and rolls into a pile of crushed velvet and screams, "Why, Misa, the flaming spirit of democracy?" Mon Mothma, blinking away sweat, smoke, and the betrayal of basic physics, tries once more. Senators, now is not the time to a section of the ceiling collapses. She sighs. It is, tragically, the loudest part of her speech so far. And somewhere deep beneath the chamber floor, in a hidden surveillance vault lined with monitors, Mass Amida silently flips to a new page on his clipboard and jots down 4 words. Possible insurance fraud incident. As Mon Mothma yells into the void, as fire licks the ancient walls of democracy, as Gungan screams echo through the scorched chamber like ghostly bagpipes of doom, the feed cuts. Across the galaxy, holoscreens go black. On Coruscant, citizens blink at frozen frames of mid-air senators and smoldering wigs before a sharp transition appears. Emergency maintenance in progress. Please stand by. Cue the Imperial logo. Cue the cheerful music. Cue the lie. Back in the Senate, stormtroopers finally arrive. Not to help, not to evacuate, but just to stand at the edges with fire extinguishers and confused expressions like they were just handed the wrong cosplay assignments. They don't move. They don't speak. One accidentally sprays foam on a senator crawling out of a vent and is immediately promoted. From a darkened chamber above, Masameda watches. He takes another note. Fire suppression failed to activate. Cause? Budget cuts. He flips the page, scribbles a question mark next to Jar Jar, flammable, and circles the phrase, potential Senate reform opportunity via arson. Palpatine, watching from a private viewpoint, does not react. He simply turns to an aide and says, issue the statement. 10 minutes later, a somber broadcast ripples across every sector. Due to today's tragic and completely unforeseen incident in the Senate chamber, all public sessions will be suspended until further notice. For your safety, for your stability, for the continued prosperity of our glorious empire. No questions. No accountability. Just the soothing certainty of total control. Behind the broadcast, the Empire's PR team begins working overtime. They spin the malfunction as a technical glitch brought on by rebel-aligned hackers. They float the theory that Mon Mothma was attempting to stage a symbolic crash to gain sympathy. They release a meme video, Senate goes full tilt, that mysteriously disappears within an hour, but already has 9 million re-uploads. Meanwhile, headlines flood the feeds. Mon Mothma declares war on gravity? Senate infrastructure collapse. Just a coincidence? Is hoverpod safety a rebel plot? Jar Jar Binks, Gungan, or Pyromancer? The official Imperial memo labels the entire event an unfortunate example of uncontrolled momentum within democratic systems. Which is to say, this will not be fixed. This will not be investigated. This will be used. And as the flames finally die down in the once great Senate chamber, the Empire quietly begins its next phase. Fewer sessions. Tighter controls. No more speeches without inspection. And Mon Mothma? She's not arrested. She's not silenced. Worse, she's now a punchline. It takes less than 15 minutes. The footage of Mon Mothma's hoverpod failing hits the holonet before the smoke even clears in the chamber. Someone in the Senate media booth, possibly a slicer, possibly just bored, uploads the raw feed. It's supposed to be evidence, but it becomes entertainment. The first edit is mostly respectful. The second adds dramatic music. By the third, someone's layered in the Curb Your Enthusiasm Imperial remix and timed the bass drop perfectly to when her body hits the floor. It goes viral. Faster than any speech she's ever given, faster than the Trade Federation collapsing, faster than the time Bail Organa accidentally hit reply all on a Senate email and started a 6-day diplomatic crisis. A slowed-down version of the crash becomes the backdrop for 1,000 different remixes. Mon Mothma falling through lo-fi beats. Mon Mothma bouncing in perfect sync with Max Rebo's greatest hits. Mon Mothma getting force-choked by gravity in a deepfake where Palpatine whispers, "Do it," as the pod shorts out. Someone adds 3 Wilhelm screams in succession. Another replays it 10 times with increasingly dramatic zooms in the caption, "We must resist gravity." The hashtags begin. Hashtag Mothma drop, trending in 6 sectors. Hashtag Senate fail comp volume 3, now bundled with Aqualish face paints and pod collision montages. Hashtag Gungan Fireball, featuring an eternal Jar Jar loop where he spins like a flaming fidget spinner of regret. Hashtag Hoverpod Challenge, an immediate public health hazard involving teenagers jumping off furniture while yelling political slogans. Within hours, bootleg merch hits the streets. Shirts that read, "Still Standing," with scorch-marked silhouette of Mon Mothma rising from the flames. Mugs that say, "Speak truth, eat floor." Limited edition hologram stickers of Jar Jar mid-scream with the motivational quote, "Misa not okay." And the crypto crowd? They launch a meme coin. Mottfall. Tagline, "The only crypto that plummets ethically." Its value spikes after Palpatine's speech. Then it crashes harder than the hoverpod. Then it spikes again because someone turns it into an NFT of the fall itself. Within days, the incident becomes legend. Students reenact it in political science class. Punk bands remix her speech into protest anthems. A holodrama called Gravity's Verdict, the Mon Mothma story, premieres to mixed reviews and excellent memes. Historians, decades later, agree on only one thing. Her speech marked a crucial turning point in the fight for freedom. Unfortunately, everyone just remembers the bounce heard around the galaxy. And that's the lesson, folks. When tyranny rises and your hoverpod fails, when democracy burns slightly to the left of center, and when the only emergency protocol still functioning is upload to HoloNet, you don't quit, you stand, you speak, you try not to get set on fire by a flailing Gungan. Because history is written by the winners, but memes are written by the internet. And in this galaxy, the internet always wins. So yes, Mon Mothma tried to defy the Empire. She wanted to inspire rebellion. She dreamed of waking up the Senate. And she did! For about 4 seconds. Then she took a pod to the floor and became a symbol not of resistance, but of impact velocity. Some call her a hero. Some call her a warning. Most just call her a gif. And somewhere, deep in the halls of the Imperial Palace, Palpatine smiles, because nothing kills rebellion faster than becoming a joke. That's it for this episode of Canon Chaos, where hope floats right before it crashes through a support beam.